more than the Supreme Court, let's dig into you and me and the country we have now. I have said this before. I say it as often as I can, and I understand that it is hard to hear, and it angers people or scares people or saddens people, but that's not the intention. The intention is that me, you, all of us, that we understand where we live, we understand how we should act in these times, and we're never going to be able to act appropriately if we don't understand what kind of country we live in. So allow me to say this again. The next 10, 20, 30, 40 years in the United States of America will look nothing like the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years. No matter your age. Maybe you're 42 like me. Maybe you're 82. Maybe you're 2. Well, no matter your age, the country we are becoming, where we're going, will not look like where we left. In a lot of ways, it's going to be really bad. In a lot of ways, we'll figure it out and we'll get through it. But there are things that we must understand and accept, like for the instance, the Supreme Court, because that's really what we're talking about here. The supreme law, the land, all these other things. The Supreme Court says so, and that's the way it goes. That's how it used to be. Those days are gone now. Those days are gone now. Remember when the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade, which was the right decision? What was the response? The federal government, the Justice Department, immediately declared war on pro-lifers across the country in response to a Supreme Court decision. They started arresting grandmas and throwing them in prison. We're in a totally different ballgame now. The Supreme Court ruled on things like student debt relief. The President of the United States of America is not a king, a dictator. He doesn't just get to say, hey, you, taxpayer, give me your money. I'm going to take it and I'm going to pay off this guy. He can't do that. It's against the law. The Supreme Court said, you can't do that. It's against the law. The president said, watch me.
Tens of millions of people's debt was literally about to get canceled. But then some of my Republican friends and elected officials and special interests sued us, and the Supreme Court blocked us. But that didn't stop us. No, I mean it sincerely. We continue to find alternatives passed to reduce student debt payments.
They just brag about it now. One of Joe Biden's communications people, he got real famous yesterday, thanking Joe Biden. Thanks, Joe. Guy had $8,300 in student loan debt. He's had it since 2010. I need to point out that's less than $600 a month. He could have paid off the entire thing very, very quickly. He didn't. And because the moron put his address online, we now know he lives in a $500,000 home in you. Working man, working woman, just paid off his student loans. What's happening right now in the speed with which it's happening in the country is changing everything. So this country is not going to look like the country you've known. And here's what really sucks about this. And I say this as someone who's 42. This will be more difficult for me than it will be for my sons. My sons are 13 and 15. It will be more difficult for my parents than it will be for me. Age is a consideration here because how long have you lived in a normal country? You've gotten used to living in a normal country if you're of a certain age. This new, wild America, it's going to be harder to accept for people who are older. The older you are, the harder it will be. But things are coming now. And they're bad. And we have to talk about it. Let's talk about the budget deficit. We are running, according to the Congressional Budget Office now, a $1.9 trillion budget deficit for the year of 2024. Now, I need you to take this thing. So I'm not going to bore you with a bunch of numbers and things like that. So let's just set aside the details. I think that's $200 a month. And if you stack the dollar bills, that means nothing to people. Allow me to explain this. That will end us quickly. No nation can do that. That kind of spending, historically, has only ever been in response to not just any war, a huge war. World War II. That's when you would spend, that's when a government would spend that much more than they're taking in. We're in an emergency situation. Oh my gosh. If there was an actual pandemic, a natural disaster wiping out things, it would take something incredible to justify running that kind of a budget deficit. There are no world wars. There's no pandemic. There's nothing going on, and the federal government is now spending $1.9 trillion more than we are taking in. We are spending as if it's World War III, but it's not World War III. We currently are in a currency crisis, so we should be spending less than we have ever. That's why you can't afford eggs, rent, shoes, flights, gas. You can't afford these things because of Washington's spending. So at a time when they should be slashing and burning every single part of the federal budget, they are spending more than they've ever spent before. Every horrible thing right now is accelerating. And it's going to create some things. And look, I want to talk really quickly about the Supreme Court, about the courts, about the law, about the states, because there's a great story out of Louisiana. Louisiana passed a law, and they said, in the classroom, you will display the 10 Commandments. It's now a requirement in Louisiana, you will display the 10 Commandments. And of course, the ACLU's mad about it. All these people are mad about it. Everyone's trying to use your values against you. Oh, don't have a religion. It should be tolerant of our other religions. Well, what about Islam and the Jehovah's Witnesses?
I'm very opposed to it. And it's not anything to do with disliking religion. It's just that there are different religions that exist in our communities. I've taught Jehovah's Witnesses. I've taught Muslim students. I have really great Muslim teacher friends who are going to now have to display Christianity as the accepted or promoted religion in our state.
Yeah, it should be the promoted religion in your state. It's fine with the country having a religion. It's fine with the state having a religion. Doesn't mean you want to be intolerant of other religions, but nations have religions. The reason that Hague is upset about this ruling, the reason so many people are upset about this ruling is they don't like the religion that was chosen. You see, they want this to remain the US of gay. They want communism to remain the only religion in schools. Do you think it's an accident the schools have gotten more and more putrid the further away the 10 Commandments have gotten from them? You want to live in a decent society? It will be a society that has chosen a decent religion. You want to live in a despicable, depraved society where we chop penises off in hospitals? Well, then you can choose the religion of communism. And maybe this ruling, maybe it made you uncomfortable. Maybe you don't like the 10 Commandments. Maybe you are a Muslim or an atheist or something like that. That's fine. That's fine. I get that. But understand something. There will be a religion in this country. I don't care what you say or what I say about it. That's not an opinion. Nations have religions. You got to choose one. And don't make the mistake of doing the nursery rhyme conservatism thing. I just want school to teach math. Schools, they're filled with teachers. Teachers teach students. Teachers are not robots. They are human beings, flesh and blood human beings with religions. Your child will be taught religion in school. Now, whether it's a public school or private one, you better choose the right one. All that may have made you uncomfortable, but I am right.